A man drank 6 litres of water in an afternoon. This is what happened to his brain. Case 066 is 34 years old, and when the paramedics reach him, he is on his kitchen floor, convulsing. His wife is kneeling over him with a folded towel under his head. She tells them this is the 3rd time in 20 minutes. Between the seizures, he opens his eyes, but he cannot tell her his name, cannot tell her what day it is, cannot follow her finger. Then his body stiffens and takes him again. There is no head wound, no pills, no bottle of alcohol, nothing to inhale. His wife swears he took nothing, he does not even drink. The only thing she can tell the paramedics is that he had been trying to be healthier this week, and today he had been drinking water, a lot of water. She does not know that plain water, in the amount he drank it, in the time he drank it, was enough to swell his brain until it began pressing against the inside of his own skull. She does not know that the most recommended substance on Earth was, that afternoon, a poison. And she does not know that the thing keeping him alive right now, the water in his blood, is the same thing trying to kill him. To understand how he ended up on that floor, we have to go back to the start of his week. Case 066 had decided to get his health in order. Nothing dramatic, no crash diet, no supplements. He had read, the way everyone has read, that most people are chronically dehydrated and should drink far more water than they do. So he bought a case of 1 litre bottles and made a rule for himself, finish them through the day, every day. For the first few days, he simply felt like he was going to the bathroom constantly, which he took as a sign it was working. On the afternoon this case begins, he had fallen behind. It was late in the day and he had barely touched his bottles, and he did not want to break the streak. So he started drinking to catch up. 1 bottle, then another, faster than he had on any previous day, 6 litres across roughly 2 hours. Partway through, he started to feel sick. A deep, swelling, nausea, and a headache building behind his eyes. He assumed he had simply drunk too fast and needed to lie down. He did not connect the nausea to the water. In fact, the nausea was the first sign that the water had already begun to turn on him. And, as we will see, it was also the exact thing that sealed his fate. He lay down. A short time later, his wife heard him fall. In the resuscitation bay, the team gets his seizures under control long enough to draw blood, and the first result that comes back rewrites the whole picture. His sodium is 109. Sodium in the blood is normally held in a tight band, somewhere between 135 and 145. It is one of the most carefully regulated numbers in the entire body because a great deal depends on it staying still. Drop below 135 and it has a name, hyponatremia. Hypo from the Greek for under or deficient, nater from natrium, the Latin word for sodium, and the reason the element's symbol is Na, emia, meaning a condition of the blood, under sodium blood. Below 125, it becomes an emergency, because that is the level at which the brain starts to swell and seizures begin. His is 109. That single number explains every convulsion on the kitchen floor. But it does not explain itself because a sodium this low almost always means the body has been losing it. Bleeding, sweating, vomiting, diarrhea. This man did none of those things. He lost nothing. His sodium did not drop because sodium left his body, it dropped because something else flooded in. Quick pause if you're new here. I open a case file like this one every week, and I'd appreciate it if you came back for the next one. Back to the sodium. Sodium obeys one rule, and every part of this case is that rule playing out. Wherever sodium is more concentrated, water moves toward it. Seals salty water behind a barrier that lets water pass but not salt, lower it into plain water, and the plain water crosses the barrier into the salty side, trying to even out the concentration. It does not go the other way. Water follows salt. This is osmosis, and your body runs on it in every cell, every second. The trick your body performs constantly is keeping the sodium concentration inside your cells and outside your cells in balance so that water sits evenly on both sides and no cell swells or shrinks. That balance is the whole game. Now flood one side with plain water. When case 066 drank 6 litres faster than his body could pass it, he poured litres of sodium-free water into his blood. The sodium in that blood did not decrease in quantity, there was exactly as much of it as before. But it was now dissolved in far more water, so its concentration fell. The fluid outside his cells became dilute. The fluid inside his cells was now, by comparison, the saltier side, and water followed the salt. It moved out of his dilute blood and into his cells. Every cell in his body began to draw in water and swell. For most of his body, this is survivable. The stomach can stretch, Muscle can hold extra water, the liver sits in a soft abdomen with somewhere to expand. If those were the only organs taking on water, 6 litres would have made him bloated and wretched and nothing more. But one organ is sealed inside bone, and it has nowhere to go. The brain fills the skull almost completely. There is only a few % of spare room in there before brain tissue meets bone on every side. It is not built to expand, because under normal conditions it never has to. As water flooded into the swelling cells of his brain, the brain began to enlarge inside a container that could not enlarge with it. And a brain with no room does not simply ache, it begins to compress itself against the walls that hold it. The rising pressure squeezes the blood vessels running through the tissue. Squeezed vessels deliver less blood. Less blood means less oxygen, and brain starved of oxygen starts to die. Worse, the pressure has only one escape, downward, toward the single opening at the base of the skull where the brainstem passes through on its way to becoming the spinal cord. If the swelling forces brain tissue down into that opening, it is called herniation. The brainstem runs your heartbeat, your breathing, and your consciousness, the processes you never have to think about because it thinks about them for you. Herniation shuts those down. It is the specific way a swollen brain kills a person, and it was the outcome the team was now racing the clock to prevent. Everything on that kitchen floor had been this. The headache was the pressure. The seizures were the swollen brain misfiring. The confusion, the blank stare between convulsions, the swelling, squeezing his mind out of reach. A CT scan confirms it in an image. Cerebral edema, cerebro, the brain. Edema, swelling from trapped fluid. His brain is visibly swollen on the scan. Not a risk anymore. A process already underway, photographed mid-act. And this is where the case becomes genuinely dangerous to treat, because the obvious cure can kill him as fast as the disease. The instinct is to pour sodium straight back in and reverse the dilution. But if you raise a badly hyponatremic patient's sodium too fast, water tears back out of the brain cells so violently that it can strip the protective coating off the brain's own nerve fibers, a separate, permanent, sometimes fatal injury called osmotic demyelination. So his sodium has to be raised, or the swelling kills him. But it has to be raised slowly through a narrow window, fast enough to pull his brain back from the edge, slow enough not to destroy it a second way. He is given a controlled drip of hypertonic saline salt water, more concentrated than his own blood, which uses osmosis in reverse, drawing water back out of his swollen cells the same way it was drawn in. He is given mannitol, which pulls fluid off the brain and relieves the pressure directly. And because the seizures and the sinking consciousness mean he can no longer keep his own airway open or breathe reliably, he is sedated. A tube is placed into his windpipe, and a machine breathes for him while his brain is walked back down. There is one question left, and it is the one that turns this from a freak event into something worth being careful about. People drink several litres of water in a day all the time and are fine. Why did 6 nearly kill this man? The answer is time, and a hormone that betrayed him at the worst moment. Your kidneys can clear a large amount of water, but only up to a rate, under roughly a litre an hour in most people. Drink slowly, and they keep up, dumping the excess before it can dilute you. Drink faster than they can empty, and it backs up, and the dilution starts. He drank far faster than his kidneys could keep pace. That alone would have been dangerous. What made it nearly fatal was the nausea, the sick feeling he ignored partway through. When the body is under certain stresses, including strong nausea, it releases antidiuretic hormone. A diuretic makes you urinate, an antidiuretic does the reverse. This hormone tells the kidneys to stop releasing water and hold on to it instead. Normally, that is protective, a way to conserve fluid when the body thinks it's about to lose some. Here, it was catastrophic. At the exact moment his body most needed to flush the flood out, the hormone ordered his kidneys to keep it. When this misfires like this, it has a name, the syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion. He was not just drinking faster than he could clear the water. His body had switched off its ability to clear it at all. The water had nowhere left to go but into his cells, and the cells with nowhere to expand were the ones inside his skull. The nausea he dismissed was not a side effect of the danger. It was part of the mechanism killing him. Case 066 lived. His sodium was brought back up in slow, measured steps over several days. Checked constantly fast enough to save his brain, slow enough to spare it, the seizures stopped. The swelling receded as the balance returned, and the water drained back out of his cells. The breathing tube came out. He woke up, and over the following days, his sodium climbed back into a normal range, By the standard of a man whose brain had been pressing on his own skull a week earlier, he was extraordinarily lucky. Not everyone at 109 wakes up. With the brain already swollen on the scan, the distance between full recovery and permanent damage or death comes down to how quickly someone recognizes what is happening and how carefully the correction is run. And the point of the case is not that water is dangerous, because it isn't. You will not harm yourself drinking water across a normal day, and most people genuinely should drink more of it, not less. The danger was never the water, it was the volume against the time more than his body could clear, faster than it could answer, at the exact moment a hormone locked the exits. It takes an extraordinary amount, drunk unusually fast, to reach the place this man reached. But the amount is not infinite. The threshold is real, and the one substance no one is ever taught to fear turned out to have a line, crossed quietly, one bottle at a time, on an ordinary afternoon. Case closed.